I got hooked onto this cheesy, crispy crust after remaking my old cold-proof cheesy breakfast roll recipe. It's just so crunchy and delicious that I had to use it in another recipe. And the best part is that all it takes to achieve it is sprinkling some cheese on the bread before baking. It may just be the best effort to outcome ratio when it comes to uniquely crusty breads. Although the crust is my favorite part, I wanted to make the bread equally as good, so I chose to use my scalded burger bun recipe for it. It produces an extremely soft bread. The crunchiness of the crust perfectly contrasts the softness of the crumb. So let's see what we need for today's recipe. For the dough, we'll need some white bread flour, water, yeast, salt, some sugar or any type of sweetened syrup. I'm actually using barley malt syrup. We'll also need some butter, an egg yolk. We'll use the leftover egg white for glazing, and of course we'll need some cheese to sprinkle on top. This time I'm using Emmental, but you can also use Gouda. As for the equipment, we'll need a tray with some non-stick baking paper, a bowl, scales, a dough scraper, temperature probe, a whisk and a brush. Right, let's get on with making the dough. And it all starts with a scald. Scalding is a technique with which we cook parts of the flour in a bread dough recipe. It weakens the gluten of the flour and also helps it absorb more water. The extra moisture and the weaker gluten both work to make the bread softer, and they will make it stay softer for longer. Usually scald only consists of flour and water, but I like to add other ingredients to it to make the mixing down the line easier. So I also added the salt, the syrup and the butter. All the water of this recipe is going straight into the scald, just so we don't have to add any more later. All you need to do is combine all the ingredients in a bowl, whisk them up until smooth and then leave them to cool down. You can cool down the scald at room temperature, in the fridge or even in the freezer. I cooled my scald down in the freezer. It was in there for no more than 30 minutes and I whisked it up every 10 minutes or so. I actually ended up cooling it down a little bit too much. But that's okay, this dough will have no problems rising, especially because we are doing this on the same day. It is a room temperature ferment. Okay, moving on, add the yeast and the egg yolk to the scald and then mix them in. These two ingredients obviously could not be added with the boiling water. We would end up with dead yeast and scrambled eggs. And don't worry if the scald is slightly lumpy. It gets smoother and smoother as we add more ingredients to it. And once you have added the flour and mixed it to a dough, there shouldn't be any lumps left. Now give your dough a fold, place it in a clean bowl, and then give it a quick temperature check. Because the scald was relatively cold, my dough turned out a little bit cooler than I wanted it to. But that is no big deal, it will ferment just fine. My kitchen is pretty warm at the moment, at around 23 degrees Celsius or 73 degrees Fahrenheit. With this dough temperature and at this room temperature, bulk fermentation took me 1.5 hours. And of course if your dough is warmer, it'll ferment more rapidly. If it's cooler, it'll take longer. Just keep an eye on it. We need to give this dough one fold halfway through bulk fermentation. Folding replaces kneading in no-knead recipes. So instead of mushing your dough against the table for 5 minutes and making a mess, we're simply picking it out of the bowl and folding it up in the air, which takes no more than 20 seconds and leaves nothing to clean up. Now you might want to wet your hands with water slightly or dust your dough with flour a little bit because it is a little bit sticky, but I did manage just fine without doing it. Right, place the dough back into the bowl, leave it to ferment for another 45 minutes to finish off bulk fermentation. Now we can move on to weighing our dough and dividing it. As I said earlier, it's a little bit sticky, so dust it with flour this time. This recipe makes 3 large subs. If you want to make smaller ones, you can divide dough into 4 pieces or even 5. Or I guess you could keep the dough whole, make one giant cheesy crusty loaf. Or whatever you decide to do. Divide the dough, then pre-shape each piece into a round ball. Flatten the dough, fold the edge over the middle while it's going around in a circle until the reach point where it started. Then flip it smooth side up, tighten it against the table, and that's your dough ball done. You don't have to put your dough balls on a tray. I did it only for the video, because I wanted more space for shaping later on, and this will make it easier to move them around. After pre-shaping the dough balls, cover them up, leave them to rest for 20 minutes. During this time the gluten will relax, make the final shaping job easier. The technique for final shaping is quite similar to a baguette shaping technique. Give the table a light dusting of flour, flatten the dough ball, then fold the top third down, then turn it 180 degrees, repeat the same step on the other side, and then turn it back and repeat the same step again. If your fingers are sticking to the dough, then rub them against the table to coat them in some flour. One last thing left to do is to roll it out to the desired length. You can make them long and skinny or short and fat, it's up to you. Just keep in mind that as the dough rises and bakes, it will get a little bit longer. So if you want your subs to fit in the tray, leave some space from the edges. Okay, arrange the dough in your non-stick paper lined baking tray. And now this next step is optional. Like I said, the cheesy crispy crust is my favorite part of this bread. So I wanted to maximize the surface area of that cheesy crust. That's why I decided to flatten the dough. Yes, the bread will turn out a little bit wider instead of rising taller, but I'll get more of my cheesy crust. You can just as well leave the dough as it is, which will result in rounder and taller subs. I'll leave those decisions up to you, or you can try both versions and see which one you like best. Okay, these guys are ready for the final proof, so cover them up, leave them to rise for around an hour and a half. If your dough is warmer to begin with, it may just take 1 hour for the final proof, but you do want them to really puff up. They'll create a nice even open crumb. Preheat the oven towards the end of the final proof to 170 degrees Celsius, 340 Fahrenheit, fan on. If your oven doesn't have a fan, go for 190 Celsius or 375 Fahrenheit. Okay, these guys have puffed up beautifully. Peel the cling film off slowly so don't rip the dough, and then apply the egg white glaze gently. The dough is quite puffy and fragile at this point. I still haven't decided if the egg glaze is actually necessary. You could probably just sprinkle the cheese on top and that will work just fine, but it does make the cheese stick to the dough before it goes in the oven. And who knows, maybe it helps the cheese not slide off the dough as it's baking. If you want to skip the egg white glaze, you can add the whole egg to the dough and simply reduce the amount of water by 30 grams or so. Cover the subs with a generous layer of cheese. I think I ended up using about 30 grams or 1 ounce on each. Although it does look like more. I guess it's because I grated it on a fine grater. Right, these bad boys are ready for the oven, so let's get them in there. They'll take around 25 minutes to fully bake. Just bake them until you are happy with the color of the cheesy crust. Of course the same rule applies here. Once it's golden brown all over, it's ready. And these ones are definitely ready. They turned out fantastic. They look like comfy cheesy slippers. I couldn't be any happier with the result here. That cheesy crust is so simple yet so effective. It is super crispy and it stays crispy for a long time. And the best part is that you can apply it to any bread. Within reason, of course. It's not going to work for something that takes 40 minutes to bake. It would burn in that amount of time. It will work perfectly for your 20 to 25 minute bakes. Cheesy burger buns, cheesy crusty ciabatta, cheesy hot dog rolls. Anything goes. Oh, but let's just appreciate the crumb of this bread for a second. It perfectly complements that cheesy crust. All that I need to do now is make a giant sandwich for myself. With plenty of deli mustard mayo on both sides. More of the same cheese that is on the crust is going inside. A few green leaves for some extra juiciness and a nice crunch. And plenty of smoked ham. What will you put in your sandwich? Let me know down in the comments. Have you ever made subs like these before? Have you ever tried sprinkling cheese on your bread before baking? What is your favorite type of crust? Soft and squishy, pale and light and thin, or thin, dark and crispy, or extra thick and crunchy? I got recipes for all of those on my channel. Don't forget that you can get early access videos up to a month before they go public. Click the join button to find out more. You can find all the things that I use in my videos in my Amazon stores, link down below. And if you have watched this far, give me a thumbs up, it really helps out. And of course subscribe if you haven't already. But that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.